Hello, this is Michael Crouch, and this is my educational vision planning process video for Professor Coker's strategic planning course at Fort Hays State University. This presentation will go through my process for how I developed the vision statement for San Jacinto College's dual credit offices. So let's just begin. So the strategic planning process, and specifically the vision planning process, for me starts with the required data. I would look at three key pieces of data, one being an ethnographic and demographic survey of the constituent high schools that the dual credit office works with. In my job at the Central Campus, I work with several independent school districts, including Pasadena ISD, LaPorte ISD, and Deer Park ISD, as well as several private schools in the area. But the college district as a whole is not limited to just these ISDs. We also have Galena Park ISD, Sheldon ISD, Clear Creek ISD, all of these ISDs encompassing hundreds of thousands of citizens and thousands of students from northeast Houston all the way down to the southeast suburbs of Houston. So quite a big service area, quite a lot of high schools, quite a lot of differences in the ethnographies and demographics of each school district. Running the gamut from all ethnicities and races, all religious groups, all socioeconomic backgrounds, etc., and knowing, kind of exactly who these students and parents are, and what their values are and what they want out of a dual credit experience is going to be integral into our vision and ultimately how we operate. Next, I would look at a study of the local economy with particular emphasis on projected growth and the skills and education required for entry-level employment in these industries. In the Houston area, the medical industry is one of our largest, as Houston is home to the country's largest medical center. Also, we have the energy industry that's booming here, the petrochemical industry, as well as the construction and building trades industries. All of those, put together are constantly hiring new employees because of growth in their areas and understanding the needs of the companies that are driving economic development in the region are going to be imperative to how we operate. So the next piece of data would be looking at a study of San Jacinto College's top transfer universities with emphasis on non-core curriculum degree requirements for the top transfer pathways, as well as other requirements or other things that these colleges are looking for from transfer students. The reason I say non-core curriculum degree requirements is because in Texas, it is the law that public universities of higher education in Texas accept core curriculum courses from other public colleges and universities of higher education. So, for example, if a student takes English 1301 and English 1302, that's Composition 1 and 2, at my college, the University of Texas has to accept it because it's a core curriculum class. So those core curriculum courses are absolutely transferable, and there's no issue with that. However, we do have students in my programs that earn associate degrees with us, and then they transfer to a four-year university to complete a baccalaureate degree. And it's those non-core curriculum requirements that I would like to really focus in on, so that we can better plan degree alignment between the college and the university, so that students are not taking classes they don't need, they're not wasting credit hours, they're not spending money they don't have to. So knowing what those four-year universities want from our degrees, as well as other, less tangible qualities, for example, study skills and other things that they're going to be looking at.
We're also going to look at
equity, ethics, and social justice as an aspect
to be able to help students with those as
our
much as
vision
possible.
for our department. And I think the two biggest pieces of this, one comes from San Jacinto College's non-discrimination policy, which, in my opinion, is, a little bit more exhaustive than some other policies that I've seen. San Jacinto College specifically names race, creed, color, national origin, citizenship status, age, disability, pregnancy, religion, gender, sexual orientation, gender expression or identity, genetic information, marital status, veteran status, all as basis upon which students will not be discriminated against in accordance with applicable federal and state laws. So that's probably, the first piece of equity, social justice, and ethics that I would ensure is part of our vision, but also ensuring that minority and economically disadvantaged students have access to all of the support services that will facilitate their development. In my experience, we tend to have a lot of Latino and African American students who come into our program, and they tend to need more help in identifying support services that that will help them. For example, our tutoring centers and pointing them to financial aid that they may be qualified for through the state to help them pay for tuition and fees. All of that, kind of goes into that. And that's not saying that we wouldn't, provide those same services to students who weren't minority or economically disadvantaged. But in my experience, those students who need those services, we need to ensure that they are reached with that information so that they know that those services are there, because sometimes it's just knowing that the services are available to them that really makes the difference. And then they'll go, hopefully the hope is that they go and use those services. But students who are on the other end of the spectrum tend to not need that push because they get that information in other ways, from parents, from family members who have been through the system and understand that those services are available to them. A lot of times when students come from families who haven't gone to college before, so these students are first generation, they need that extra push, that extra little bit of hand-holding to understand that these services are available to them. So, non-negotiables. What absolutely has to be a part of my vision for the dual credit offices at San Jacinto College? We will put an emphasis on equitable access for all students. All qualified students, that is, because not all high school students are going to be eligible to take courses for dual credit, and so there's really not a whole lot that we can do to help them in those instances. I'm a big proponent of breaking down barriers, but there are some barriers that I don't have the power to break down, such as intellectual or academic ability requirements. Students have to be able to take and score high enough on the Texas Success Initiative assessment, the SAT, the ACT, the PSAT, or the STAR exam in order to be qualified to take college level courses. They have to do that on their own, and there's not a whole lot that I can do to break that barrier. So I say equitable access for eligible students. Next, an emphasis on preparing students to be productive members of society through their chosen pathway, whether it's academic transfer to a four-year university or a technical path that leads to entry into the workforce. we want students to be put on a path early on and to see that path through to their chosen destination. Also, an emphasis on being the bridge between secondary and post-secondary education and the journey that represents for students in terms of their socioeconomic development or in socioeducational development. I try with my students to really emphasize the fact that when they're in these courses that they're taking for dual credit, they are college students and not just high school students. And I find that if we don't really emphasize that, then it leads to behavioral problems, because sometimes they think that the college course is just an extension of their high school classes, and that's not the case. We try to treat them as much like college students as we can, so that they get that immersive experience and hopefully grow as individuals. We also need to take into consideration the expectations that students and parents and the high schools that we work with. What are their expectations? What do they want out of a program like this? The first is curriculum. They all want rigorous curriculum that will meet both high school standards and university requirements. Otherwise, what's the point of what we're doing here? Probably more of an expectation of parents and students is affordable tuition and fees. Now, San Jacinto College already offers a 75% discount on tuition and fees, so students who are in district will pay approximately $75 for one 3-credit hour course, which is a pretty good deal, and it helps a lot of students afford that. Even with that, we find that there are some students who can't afford it, so there are the TPEG grants, Texas Public Education grants, that are available through the state of Texas for students. It's on a first-come, first-served basis, and high school students are eligible for those grants. Something that I have found that parents ask about a lot is that they want sequences of courses that will lead to something. Not that they just want to check off boxes at the high school level, but they want a sequence of courses that will lead to either university transfer or workforce entry. I'll be honest, workforce entry is not very big on my campus, at least. We have some students who participate in the process technology program, and that is funded by Shell Oil, and they have 20 spots per year for students who wish to go into that program, and so it's completely paid for. But beyond that, we have about 30 welding students who end up with a certificate of technology as a combination welder, and they're able to get jobs right after high school with that credential. And I've also worked with cosmetology students. So all of those, they end up in a credential that will allow them to get entry level education into a field that they've been trained in. The academic students, we try to keep them on the core curriculum path so that once they enter a public institution in Texas, they have core curriculum requirements checked off that will apply to any degree that they choose to take. And I find that parents are reassured that that's part of our program, that's what we strive for. So, in thinking about the workforce and post-secondary trends, we talked earlier that the medical industry, energy, petrochemical, and construction and trades are probably the biggest industries in the Houston area of Texas, and as such they are our economic development partners, and we need to be mindful of their needs and what they need out of the community colleges in the area. A part of San Jacinto College's overarching mission is to be the preferred provider of economic development education in the area, and we strive to meet that goal in the dual credit office as well. So as I mentioned before, understanding what those needs are and how workforce demands are going to change in the coming years with retirement, with new technological advances and growth in those industries. How can we help to meet that workforce demand in dual credit? Is it by expanding programs? Is it by getting students into workforce programs earlier? Those kinds of considerations are going to need to be taken into account. Post-secondary, like I said, we're going to need to work closely with our four-year transfer universities to ensure that students are taking courses that meet degree requirements at the four-year level so that they can earn their degrees in the most expedient way possible, not just through taking core curriculum classes, but matching our degree plans with four-year institutional degree plans so that not only core curriculum requirements are being met, but also major requirements are being met. More than that, I think it's important that we emphasize other student success skills like study skills and time management and coping strategies, because education tends to be more stressful as students go through it. So high school, community college, four-year universities, graduate school, etc., the stress goes up and up and up, and students need to know how to deal with that. And so I think that's a big part of meeting post-secondary needs, not just other community colleges, but four-year universities in particular. So, taking all of that into account, and without having done the studies I discussed earlier in the video, I've come up with this vision for a unified dual credit program at San Jacinto College. It is the vision of the Office of Dual Credit at San Jacinto College to create an environment where all eligible high school students have access to the programs, tools, and support services necessary to ensure their success in achieving their goals, be they university transfer or entrance into the workforce. The Office of Dual Credit will act as a bridge between secondary and post-secondary education by promoting a college-going culture and empowering students with the agency to take responsibility for their educations, emphasizing the new freedoms and responsibilities that they now enjoy. Ultimately, the Office of Dual Credit will support the educational and economic growth of the community by being a first step for students on their journey to learning, living, and working in a global, technology-rich, and culturally diverse world.